While Tesla and BYD were busy racing toward an all-electric future, Toyota did something completely different. No flashy events, no dramatic promises, no loud claims about changing the world overnight. Instead, Toyota waited, and when it finally moved, it didn't launch a radical electric car. It launched a hybrid Corolla. At first, that decision confused a lot of people. Why would the world's largest automaker step away from the electric hype when everyone else was running straight into it? Was Toyota behind the curve? Or did it see something everyone else missed? Because once the new Corolla hybrid was revealed, people started paying attention. Not just car enthusiasts, but everyday buyers, families, commuters, people who don't want their car to feel like an experiment. And suddenly, a simple question started spreading across the market. What if Toyota was right all along? And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. Why Toyota chose hybrids instead of going fully electric. How the new Corolla is quietly challenging Tesla and BYD. And why its engine, reliability, and price are causing so much discussion worldwide. But before we get into the car itself, you need to understand something important. The real power of the Corolla doesn't start under the hood. It starts with Toyota. Toyota isn't a company built on hype. It didn't rise because of bold promises or viral launches. It grew slowly, steadily, and relentlessly. For decades, Toyota has been present in almost every corner of the world. Big cities, small towns, developing countries, remote regions, places where charging stations are common, and places where electricity itself isn't always reliable. That global reach matters more than most people realize. Toyota sells cars not just to early adopters or tech enthusiasts, but to millions of ordinary people who depend on their vehicles every single day. In recent years, Toyota has been selling well over 10 million vehicles annually. That's not just a statistic. That's millions of real drivers, driving in heat, cold, traffic, dust, rain, and rough roads. And when that many people rely on a brand, trust becomes everything. Toyota earned its reputation the hard way. Cars that last, engines that don't quit early, maintenance that doesn't drain your savings. Whether fuel prices rise or regulations change, Toyota adapts instead of panicking. This is where the contrast with Tesla becomes clear. Tesla is built on a very different philosophy. Its vision is bold and futuristic, fully electric, software-driven, heavily dependent on charging infrastructure, and in major cities with strong infrastructure. That model works beautifully. BYD follows another aggressive path. Affordable electric vehicles, rapid production, battery dominance. It's expanding fast and reshaping markets, especially where government support and urban infrastructure align with its goals. But Toyota operates in reality, not just in ideal conditions. It understands that the world isn't uniform. Not every country has charging stations on every corner. Not every driver wants to plan their life around battery percentages. And not everyone is comfortable trusting their daily commute to a technology that still feels new. That mindset is exactly why Toyota never abandoned hybrids. And it's also why the Corolla suddenly became relevant again. Most people think of the Corolla as just another car. But the Corolla isn't just a model, it's a legacy. First introduced in 1966, the Corolla became one of the best-selling cars in automotive history for one simple reason. It worked. For decades, the Corolla stood for reliability, simplicity, and durability. It wasn't flashy. It didn't try to impress. It just showed up every morning and did its job. That's why millions of people stuck with it even as trends came and went. But then everything changed. Electric vehicles dominated the conversation. Tesla headlines were everywhere. BYD's expansion seemed unstoppable. Petrol cars were suddenly treated like relics of the past. And hybrids? They were almost forgotten. That's when Toyota made its move. Quietly, strategically, right when doubts about EVs started creeping in. Range anxiety, charging delays, battery replacement fears, rising electricity costs. The new Corolla hybrid landed right in that gap. Not as a rebellion against EVs, but as a practical alternative. A solution for people who weren't ready to go all in on electric, but didn't want rising fuel costs either. And that's where the real story begins. Because hybrid technology isn't complicated, it's just smart. A hybrid car works on a simple idea. Two power sources working together instead of one doing all the work. A petrol engine and an electric motor share the load. In everyday driving, especially in traffic or at low speeds, the Corolla often runs on electric power alone. That means quiet movement, smooth acceleration, and reduced fuel use. When more power is needed, the petrol engine steps in. On highways, it takes over naturally. without drama. The key part is that the driver doesn't have to think about any of this. There's no mode switching, no constant monitoring. The car decides everything on its own. And the battery? It charges itself. When the car slows down or brakes, energy that would normally be wasted gets stored. No charging stations, no cables, no waiting. That convenience is exactly why hybrids resonate with so many people. There's no anxiety, no lifestyle change. You drive like you always have, but spend less on fuel and enjoy a smoother ride. For the average person, this matters far more than futuristic dashboards or record-breaking acceleration. Daily comfort, predictability, peace of mind. And Toyota understands this better than anyone, which is why it never rushed into full electrification. Toyota's leadership has said it repeatedly, even when it was unpopular. The world is not ready to go fully electric all at once. Infrastructure varies, energy costs vary, consumer readiness varies. Forcing everyone into EVs too quickly creates stress instead of progress. Toyota chose a slower path, not because it feared innovation, but because it believed in stability. The new Corolla hybrid reflects that philosophy perfectly. The engine is smooth. The transitions are seamless. There are no sudden noises or jerks. In traffic, it feels calm and quiet. On highways, it feels confident and composed. And most importantly, it doesn't demand anything from the driver. You don't need to understand hybrid systems. You don't need to worry about battery levels. You just drive. That simplicity is powerful. And it's also why Tesla and BYD should be paying close attention. The Corolla isn't challenging Tesla or BYD head-on. It's not trying to out-accelerate them or out-tech them. Instead, it's competing where both companies are most vulnerable: everyday life. Tesla and BYD work best where charging infrastructure is strong and predictable. But once you step outside major cities, things change. Long road trips become complicated. Rural areas raise questions. Unexpected delays become stressful. The Corolla doesn't care about any of that. You fill up, drive, and go wherever you want. The hybrid system quietly optimizes everything in the background. Then there's trust. Toyota's reputation didn't come from bold claims. It came from cars that lasted longer than expected. Lower maintenance, fewer surprises. That trust carries enormous weight, especially for buyers who plan to keep their cars for many years. Price also plays a critical role. Fully electric vehicles are still expensive for many buyers. Even affordable EVs come with long-term questions about batteries and charging costs. The Corolla hybrid sits in a comfortable middle ground. Reasonable upfront cost, lower fuel expenses, no additional infrastructure required. That balance makes it extremely attractive to first-time buyers of new technology, people who want efficiency without risk. And this quiet shift is already changing the global market. For years, the narrative was simple: electric or outdated. But the Corolla hybrid broke that illusion. It showed that there's a third path, one that fits today's world better than extremes. In Europe and North America, buyers who once rushed toward EVs are now reconsidering hybrids, not because they hate electric cars, but because they want flexibility. In Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, hybrids are becoming even more important due to infrastructure limitations. This forces other automakers to rethink their strategies. Betting everything on EVs suddenly feels risky. Supply chains, battery materials, and grid capacity all come under pressure when adoption accelerates too fast. Hybrids relieve some of that strain. Even governments are starting to notice. A gradual transition reduces stress on infrastructure and gives cities time to adapt. Hybrids lower emissions without demanding instant transformation. And that brings us to the question everyone keeps asking: the price. People aren't just looking at the Corolla hybrid sticker price. They're looking at the total cost of ownership, monthly expenses, fuel savings, maintenance reliability. For a daily commuter, the Corolla hybrid makes sense immediately. Quiet mornings, smooth traffic drives, less fuel burned. For families, reliability becomes even more important. No one wants surprises on long trips or constant service visits. This car doesn't try to impress with flash. It earns confidence slowly, and that's why people talk about it. Looking ahead, hybrids may become even more important, not as a replacement for EVs, but as preparation for them. A hybrid today makes an electric car tomorrow feel less intimidating. Toyota understands that transitions don't happen overnight. They happen step by step. And the Corolla hybrid is one of those steps. While others shout about the future, Toyota focused on the present. And in doing so, it may have made the smartest move of all. Because sometimes, the most powerful disruption isn't loud. It's quiet, calculated, and built to last. If you enjoy simple, straightforward breakdowns like this without hype or confusion, make sure to subscribe. We bring you the biggest stories from the automotive world clearly and honestly. Like the video, share it, and stay tuned for what's coming next.